Just here. Okay. One second. Whoop. Yeah, cartels. So today is the glorious appearance day of Advaita Charya. So we're going to be speaking about Advaita Charya today. And Friend Govinda will give the midday class. I was supposed to give the midday class, but he has a sannyas seminar. Let me put it here in case I need it, in case it gets too cold. He has a sannyas seminar today, which he's supposed to be taking sannyas soon, and they put everybody through the ringer. You understand? See if they're actually qualified for sannyas. It's like joining a fraternity. They torture you first. So, because I took sannyas before they started torturing people. So anyway, we're going to speak about Advaita Charya. Just give me 1 second. I got to get this online stuff all set up. I'll get closer to it in a second. I'm just getting my... Wait a second. It's not working. Let me just make sure we're streaming properly so that other people can watch. Just give me 1 second. Yep, at least it's on YouTube. Okay, so just notice. So every time I give a class, I have to send it. We have a WhatsApp group, and I have to send a notice out to everybody. Okay, so everybody can watch. Okay. Doing live streaming. Whoops. All right. One second. It's weird. Two. Okay. Yogindra shouldn't be texting me during class. Please don't text me during class. It's actually quite disturbing. Okay, so today is the appearance day of Sri Advaita Charya, and we're going to be speaking a little bit about his position, what's called the Ontological Position, maybe some past times, but first we're going to chant Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More. That's all right. Yeah, I have it right here. I had brought my own songbook. And see if you can follow. If you have a songbook, you can put it out for the devotees to see. Okay. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Shri Krishna. Okay. Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More. Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Doya Koro Jayano Jagat Samsare Advaita Bhavana Hetu Tavavatara Advaita Bhavana Hetu Tavavatara Mosama Patita Prabhu Na pai me ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balakana Korau Ami Baru Sita Hati Advaita Goswami Maya Sita Hati Advaita Goswami Tava Kripa Bole Pai Caitanya Nitya Sarup Sanatana Rupa Raguna Rupa Raguna Bhatta Juga Shijiva Prabhu Lokana Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangamage Narottamudaya Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dvaya Karamure Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dvaya Karamure Uma Binakedaya Jagat Samsare Jaya Advaita Acharya Jaya Advaita Acharya Jaya Advaita Acharya Jaya Advaita Acharya Advaita Chaya, Advaita Chaya, Jaya Advaita Chaya, Jaya Advaita Chaya. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Tata Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Sabaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Machuranam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamari Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So I just want to read the translation to this prayer, since it's a very important prayer. My dear Lord, please be merciful to me, because who can be more merciful than your lordship within these three worlds? Your incarnation is just to reclaim a conditioned fallen soul, but I assure you that you will not find a more fallen soul than me. Therefore, my claim is first. My dear Lord Nityananda, you are always joyful in spiritual bliss. Since you always appear very happy, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. If you kindly put your glance over me, I may also become happy. My dear Advaita Prabhu, husband of Sita, you are so kind. Please be kind to me. If you are kind to me, naturally, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda will also be kind to me. I pray for the mercy of Swarup Damodar, the six Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Bhakta Raghunath Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami and Lokanath Prabhu. I, Narottama Das, pray to the merciful Srinivasacharya, and I always desire the company of Ramachandra. Ramachandra is actually a disciple of Srinivasacharya, who was the great friend of Narottama Das Thakur. So I'm going to start this class by, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Miritam Yena Tasmai Shigarvaya Namaha. So I'm going to start this class by reading from part of the 6th chapter of the Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, just to give us an idea of Advaitacharya's what we call ontological position, and that's a big word. Ontological basically means who he is, what is Tattva. Tattva, okay. That's easier for you to understand since you all speak Sanskrit. So Tattva means his position. Like Vishnu Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva, like that. You understand? It means basically basically a position, a category, or let's use the word category. An internal category. Not like in a category like we have in this material world, that, I am male or female or We are here in New Talavan. Like that, these are all categories or labels, okay? Upadis. So we're interested in eternal categories. So that's what we're going to speak about first, but in order to introduce that topic, I'm going to read the first few verses in the 6th chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, translated and commented on by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Oh, okay. We get fancy. I'm online also, so. So, Bande Tam, I'm going to just read the Bengali for the first, well, let's see how many verses I read the Bengali of. Bandeham Shrimad Advaita Charyam Adbhutas Cheshtitam Yasya Prasadat Gyopi Tatsarupam Nirupayat. So, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Advaita Acharya, by whose activities are all wonderful. Whose activities are all wonderful. By his mercy, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. I'll just read the English, since class is short. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Advaita is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita, and because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee, therefore I take shelter of him. Sri Advaita Acharya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His glory is beyond the conception of all ordinary living beings. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. That Purusha creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes. Okay, that's the introduction from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And now we're going to talk about who Advaita Acharya is, but first I want to mention something about Panchatattva. Again, we have that word tattva. So I use the word tattva as indicating like a category, right? Remember? Or ontological position. So it's a big word you can use to impress all your friends today. There are 5 personalities, actually 3 different tattvas in the Panchatattva. That's interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. We say Panchatattva, but it's actually Teen Tattva, 3 tattvas, because 3 of the categories or the designations, if you want to use that word, of the personalities in the tattva, in the Panchatattva, are Vishnu tattva. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, who is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahayanya, who is Radha and Krishna appearing as one, or Krishna in the mood of Radharani. And then you have Lord Nityananda, Balaram, Hoila, Nitai, which is Balaram appearing as Lord Nityananda. And then you have Advaita Acharya. And the 3 are the same category. In other words, let's use a verse from the Brahma Samhita to sort of explain this whole point. Advaita Chuta Nadira Nantarupa Madhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedaishu Durlava Madurlava Matma Bhakto Govinda Mani Purusham Tamaham Bhajame. So you have this word Advaita in this verse too, Advaita Chuta Anadi Anantarupa, which is really describing Advaita Acharya as well as all the incarnations of the Lord. The word, let's go to a little Sanskrit here. Dvaita means 2. And Advaita means not to. When you put the A in front of it, like you have karma and akarma, right? Karma means, an activity that gives you some result. Akarma means an activity that doesn't give you a karmic result, which is devotional service. So Dvaita and Advaita. And interesting, I'll tell a story anyway. I guess I'll mix the class up with stories, not just tattva, just to keep everybody's attention. So once upon a time, Mother Sachi accused the Advaita Acharya of being Dvaita instead of Advaita. And the reason for this was that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's brother, Vishvarup, took sannyas. And the reason he took sannyas, well, he was supposed to anyway, but at least as far as Mother Sachi was concerned, he took sannyas because Advaita Acharya was preaching too much to him. It's like sometimes, like there'll be a married couple, and the wife will say, don't go to see that sannyasi because he'll encourage you in renunciation. And so the husband comes back and he just treats his wife like brahmachari, like dirt or something like that. You seen that happen? Yeah, I'm sure Gokul has seen that happen. It's just like, how can you be married? That's Maya. And so he says, you're Maya, he says to his wife. Anyway, so Mother Sachi sort of like was thinking that about Advaita Acharya, that that Vishwarup had gone to Advaita Acharya's house, and he had heard about Krishna every day. They had kirtans, they had Krishna Katha, and so one day when Vishwarup was sitting in his room in the house, he overheard a conversation that was going on between Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra, and they were trying to plan out his marriage. Parents do that sometimes. I mean, this is India. In America, it's not like that. You just like hope for the best, cross your fingers. People plan their own things. But in India, it's like that. They were planning his marriage, and he got frightened. And he was so frightened that he left in the middle of the night. And he took sannyas. And of course, later on, it's described. He's an expansion of Lord Nityananda. We understand that. So these are not ordinary pastimes. But Mother Sachi, she blamed Advaita Acharya, and she was going around saying that Advaita Acharya is not Advaita, he's Dvaita. Now what that means in that context is that he's two-faced. You understand? I think you have that expression here in English. That you say something to someone and you say something else to someone else, you're a cheater. In other words, it's a cheater. To call someone Dvaita means you're a cheater. Basically, it's like saying you're a rascal. So, because she was actually criticizing Advaita Acharya, something very interesting happened. That when Lord Chaitanya was doing his Mahaprakash Leela, in which he was giving love of God to everybody in Srivas Thakur's house, he didn't give love of God to Mother Sachi. And everybody was saying, what about Mother Sachi? She's your mother. And he said, no, she can't get love of God. She criticized Advaita Acharya. So, of course, then after that, Advaita Acharya, being very humble, he actually touched Mother Sachi's feet, and Mother Sachi touched his feet, and everything was forgiven. But that was a pastime. It wasn't that Sachi Mata was actually offensive. She's the mother of God. But Lord Chaitanya was teaching us that even if you happen to be the mother of God, don't commit offenses. Sometimes people think I'm so exalted in devotional service, like I may think I'm a Prabhupada disciple and sannyasi, I can offend any damn person. But if I do, it doesn't matter. Prabhupada doesn't protect his disciples from offenses. You may think that he does, but that's an illusion. Because even Krishna doesn't protect people from offenses. If you commit an offense, nagati katopa, even against a little devotee. We have these little and big devotees. Just like this morning, it was actually very, very interesting. Pran Govinda told me he couldn't give class because there was this big devotee who was going to give class during his sannyas training this morning. I said, who is this big devotee? I'm not going to mention who it was. I said, big devotee. And he said, well, big devotees have the prerogative of changing time of class. And I said, no, big devotees, I don't take the prerogative of changing the time of class when I go to a temple. Whatever time they do, they do. So, sometimes we think we're big devotees, we can do so many things. Anyway, So even if you happen to be a big devotee, if you offend any devotee, even an ant, basically, even an animal, an ant, you have to be very careful. Ramanina manadena kirtini. Just like the other day, I was in the shower and there was a big cockroach there. What's wrong with the cockroach? They're living entities too, Tribhush. They're not. They have feelings, just like you and I. So I was thinking, yuck! Like Tribhush made a face. So it wasn't here, don't worry. It's too cold for cockroaches here.
No, it isn't.
No. So what I did is, I picked him up and took him outside. And he ran for shelter. Not outside, but inside the house. And so that we have to have that mood with all living entities. So anyway, getting back, so that was an interesting story with Advaita Acharya. So Advaita Acharya is called Advaita because he is non-different. Advaita Achyuta. Achyuta means infallible. Ananta Rupam. So this is really interesting. This expression, Ananta Rupam. Rupam means form. And Ananta is like Ananta, without end. Anta means end, like Vedanta. Vedanta means the end or the conclusion of knowledge. Veda means knowledge. So, Ananta means without an end, like Ananta Shesh, etc., like that. So, Ananta Rupam means form. So you have unlimited forms, but Advaita. You have both these words together, Advaita, Achyuta, and of course infallible. Ananta Rupam. Ajam, Adi means the original. Purana, old. Like you have the Puranas, they're old literatures. So Advaita, Achyuta, Nadir, Ananta Rupam, Ajam, Purana, Purusham. A person, he's a person. But he's what? Navayovanam. That means he's always youthful. Although Advaita Acharya, and that was also a controversy, whether people should depict Advaita Acharya with a beard or not. We had this controversy when we were installing the deities in Sridham Mayapur. And some people said no, some people said yes. And there's actually two types of quotes from Prabhupada. So they did put a beard on him, even though he's always youthful. Ananta Navayovanam Cha. Vedeshu Durlabham. You cannot understand this simply by studying the Vedas. That's like you see all these people who are so-called expert Vedic scholars, but we have a greater understanding than them because Durlabham Atma Bhakta, because we are getting the mercy of His Divine Grace, say, C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because we're devotees of Prabhupada. So Vedeshu Durlabham cannot be understood in the Vedas by studying the Vedas. But Adurlabham Atma Bhaktu, but can be understood by getting the mercy of Krishna's devotee. It's interesting, the verse, this Brahma Samhita verse. So anyway, let me explain what that means. That means that there's only one God, Advaita. We may think, of course, hopefully we don't think, that there's many gods. Like Hinduism, whatever Hinduism, I don't know. Sometimes they go into a temple and you say, the gods. Here's all the gods. You can choose which one you want. It's like, you want a good wife? You go to Durga. Or a good husband or something like that. No, you go to Shiva if you want a good wife. If you want a good husband, you go to Durga. Sorry, I got it backwards. So you like Katyayani Vrat, which the gopis did. Of course, they were successful in worshiping Durga. They got Krishna. Krishna tricked them, and he took all their clothes away. But that's a wonderful story. So anyway, there is one God. We are not polytheistic. So this one God, Krishna, who's the God in his full manifestation, expands as Lord Nityananda. Of course, you have the Chaturvyuha expansion, Balaram, Lord Nityananda, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. And then you have the second Chaturvyuha expansions. And this is, of course, then you have the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shiradakshay Vishnu, like this. And so all these different personalities are the same person acting simultaneously in different situations. That is a chincha. There's another word. Chincha means to comprehend. Of course, it sometimes means anxiety too. Like there's a deity of Lord Shiva in Braj called Chincha Haran. Anyone seen the deity? That means the Lord Shiva takes away your anxiety. So achincha means inconceivable, basically. Like we have our philosophy, Veda Abeda, Chincha Veda Veda Tattva. So achincha. So anyway, it's inconceivable that God or one person, because God is a person, can be in unlimited places simultaneously, and he's the same person. It's not different persons. So Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda and Lord Caitanya and Krishna, I don't want to say and Krishna, it's the same person, or he's the same, not it. He's the same person. That's inconceivable, isn't it? Doing things simultaneously in unlimited circumstances. Because right now in some universe, Krishna is taking birth in Mathura. In some universe, Krishna is lifting Govardhan Hill. In some universe, Krishna is dancing with the gopis. And in the spiritual world, it's all going on anyway. Goloka idam vashati. Akilatma Bhuta. Krishna never leaves Goloka Vrindavan. So you say, Krishna never leaves Goloka Vrindavan, yet he's all over the place. Akilatma Bhuta means he's all over the place in the material world. So this is, excuse me, this is the nature of God, that he can do this. So we shouldn't think that Advaita is different. That's why he's called Advaita. He's different from Lord Chaitanya. But because of Yogamaya, he may be feeling himself different. That's also inconceivable, isn't it? Like you have Advaita Acharya who is worshipping the Shalagram Shila and the Ganges to cause the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In one sense you can say he's the cause, the external cause of the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's looking at all of us and saying, these guys in America, or Kali Yuga, they're so full of, there's nothing I can do about it, right? Everybody, Kalone Doshanate Rajana Sheko Mahadguna, Kirtana Deva Krishna Sha Mukta Sangha Parambhajan. It's an ocean of quarrel. I mean, I just like, if I look at the news, I think the same thing, right? Isn't it, Dri? You look at the news?
Not so much, but I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do sometimes. And Ekadasi, no. I fast from the news. So you look at the news and say, oh my God, this is crazy, this world. And so Advaita Acharya is looking at the world, especially, he is in Navadvip area, or actually it's described that some people say that he appeared in Shantipur, other people say that he appeared somewhere else. Where was that? I had my notes here. Anyway, there's two different versions. But whatever it is, he's in Bengal. And he's seeing that everybody, all these scholars, these followers of so-called Krishna, they think they're so-called followers, or think they're followers of Krishna. They're all doing sahaja stuff, they're all crazy. And he's thinking, what am I going to do? I don't have the ability to save all these poor souls. So he's praying for Krishna to come down, but he is Krishna. So in other words, by the influence of Yogamaya, he's forgetting that he's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course we see in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, Krishna is continually forgetting that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So much so that in order to please Radharani, he sometimes has to beg and cry at her feet just to get her to forgive him. You're God. Why are you asking anyone for forgiveness? If I was God, which I thank God, I wouldn't ask anyone for forgiveness. I would just have my own way about everything. Isn't it? I said, let there be a temple. Okay. Put myself on the altar. But he's God, and he's thinking he's helpless. He's helpless. So he's praying to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is so interesting. This is, ontologically, it's so interesting that he's God. He's non-different. And yet he's thinking he's not. And yet he's thinking, I need God to come. Think about it. It's something that really, to use modern nomenclature, it's something that would really blow your mind, isn't it? He doesn't remember it. But that's Yogamaya, and these are for pastimes or Leela's sake. So that's who Advaita Acharya is. We shouldn't think he's lesser or different than the Supreme Person, or any of the incarnations like Mahavishnu. But we understand that they're interacting even with each other for Leela's sake. In other words, Krishna is interacting with himself in different roles for the sake of Leela. That is even more interesting than Krishna being in different places simultaneously. Sometimes he's in the same place in different guises simultaneously, not aware that he's interacting with himself and worshiping himself. So, of course, we understand that Krishna is too Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why is this? This is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the 23rd chapter. That Krishna has four different, this is also Nectar Devotion, Krishna has four qualities or exhibits four qualities when he comes as Krishna that the other manifestations of God don't exhibit, isn't it? Plays a flute, Leela Madhurya, devotees, intimate devotees, and unexcelled beauty. Unexcelled beauty to such an extent that there's the story that Mahavishnu had to make a trick in order to see Krishna. He wanted to see Krishna. That's a pretty cool story. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mahavishnu stole the Brahman's sons, and Arjuna said, I'm going to save the sons. And he wasn't able to save. He said, if I can't save them, I'm going to kill myself. And Krishna said, that's not a good idea. Don't kill yourself. We're going to go visit Mahavishnu. And so they got in this chariot, pierced through the coverings of the material universe, ultimately arrived at Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu said, I just did this because I wanted to see you. And they're the same person. Okay. So, more points about Advaita Acharya that some devotees are confused about. Of course, in what we just read, it's said that he's a incarnation of Mahavishnu. But elsewhere you also hear that he's an incarnation of Sadashiva. I'm sure you've heard that before. So then you may be thinking, Shiva's not God. He's an expansion, and the Brahma Samhita also talks about that, how there's milk, right? And you make yogurt from milk, but you can't make milk from yogurt. At least I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to do that?
Krishna knows.
Oh, Krishna can do anything he wants. But the point is, he's up to kama. But the point is that Lord Shiva is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Vaishnavadam Yata Shambhu. He's a devotee. He's a special tattva expansion, which is sometimes called Shiva tattva. So then why do we have Advaita Acharya being called Sadashiva? Isn't that an interesting question? So the answer to that, this is a number of years ago, I was talking to my dear godbrother, Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu, who's expert in Sanskrit and the Vedic literatures. I asked him that very same question. And he said that Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva from whom the Shiva in this world expands. So, these are all different understandings of expansions and sub-expansions and expansions of expansions, portions of plenary portions and portions of plenary portions. So Sadashiva is in the spiritual world, and he actually has location in the spiritual world. And the Shiva in this world expands from him. Interesting, isn't it? So therefore, that's why he can be Mahavishnu and Sadashiva simultaneously. Because actually, another point is that in the Brahma Samhita, it's described that when Mahavishnu looks at the creation of this world, Saikshata, his glance is called Shambhu. Did you know that? That's how we become implanted in this material world. We were originally, at the time of the cosmic dissolution, of course we originally with Krishna, I'm not going to get into that controversy right now, but at least because we've been in the material world for many, many lifetimes of Lord Brahma, at least I have. So what happens is that during the cosmic dissolution, all the souls enter into the Mahavishnu, and they have to be put back in the creation at the time of the creation. And so the first thing that happens in the creation, there's this thing called the unmanifest state of the modes of nature, which is called the pradhan. And so Mahavishnu looks at this pradhan, and his glance, another verse from the Brahma Samhita, Angani Yasha Shakalen Shriyadri Timanti, that he could do anything with any part of his body. We can't. I can only see with my eyes, right? I can't see with my hands, I can't see with my legs, I can't taste with my hands. That's why we don't eat prasada like that. So Mahavishnu looks and he impregnates the material creation with his glance, and that impregnation, because he doesn't touch the material creation, he just looks at it. So that process of impregnation is personified as Shambhu, O Lord Shiva. Because everything about the Lord is a person, even let's say his garlands, of course we know the direct paraphernalia of the Lord is Balaram. Because Balaram is the Brahman's thread of the Lord, the seat, the Singasana. All this is Balaram, but everything about the Lord, his flute is a person. Venam, Panantam, Aravinda, Dalaya, Taksham. So his glance is actually a person. That person is Shambhu. And Shambhu consorts with the material energy. This is described in the Brahma Samhita by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur very nicely. He consorts with the material energy and puts us all in. He's our father. I mean, that's why they worship the Shiva Linga and the Yoni, because there's a father and the mother there. So Lord Shiva, in one sense, is the father of our material bodies. Krishna, of course, is the father of us, of the soul. Not the father in terms of creation, but the father in terms of that we're all parts and parcels. Aham bija pada pitaha, Krishna says in the Gita. So anyway, so Sadashiva, in one sense, is the expansion of Mahavishnu that looks at the material creation. I mean, this is really cool understanding. And the actual Shiva of this world expands. Of course, there's other manifestations of Lord Shiva, such as the Rudras that come from Lord Brahma. I'm sure that some of you know what anger is. Of course, none of you know what anger is. But anyway, so Lord Brahma gets angry because his kids refuse to get married, right? The 4 Kumaras, he says, get married. And they said, no, Dad. And he gets so angry that the 11 Rudras come out of his head. And these 11 Rudras, they threaten to destroy the whole universe because Rudra is the anger manifestation of the Lord. Whew, uncontrolled anger. So what he does, Lord Brahma does, he gets them married. So they're not so angry anymore. He creates 11 Rudranis. That's the story of the Bhagavatam. I'm not just making this stuff up. This is Bhagavatam and Brahma Samhita that I'm using as reference today. So, anyway, so that's Advaitacharya's ontological position. In other words, who he is. He's God. He's fully God. But he's just acting as a devotee of God, as Lord Nityananda is. So, anyway, and the other two members of the Panchatattva, just briefly, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, he is Shakti Tattva, and then of course you have Srivas Thakur, who is representing us, Narada Muni, Jiva Tattva. So that's 3 Vishnu Tattva, 1 Shakti Tattva, and 1 Jiva Tattva. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the history of Advaitacharya. I have my notes here, which I prepared. So it's another thing about ontological position. He is actually a coward boy in Braj Leela. That's pretty interesting. And in Braj Leela, he's also the Dikpal, the one who guards the different aspects of the holy Dham in Braj Leela. You understand? He's like you have Lord Shiva. I think you all know about this. Lord Shiva, the Gopishwara Mahadev, Kundeshwara Mahadev, and all the other expansions of Lord Shiva that guard the various aspects, or Sadashiva, who guard the various aspects of Braj. And that's why wherever you go in Braj, you get permission from the Dikpala. There's actually an interesting story that one time Narada Muni came to see Krishna's Rasa Leela dance, and he was stopped by Lord Shiva, by Sadashiva. He said, "You can't go there. You have to actually, no males allowed here." And of course, at that point it was Gopishwara Mahadev who stopped him. You can't go in. So Narada Muni decided to take a bath, and Kushama Sarovara, and then he became Naradi, a female version of Narada Muni. And then, this is a wonderful story told by the Acharyas. And then he, when Krishna saw him, Krishna didn't dance with him, obviously. Krishna told him, "You have to stay here in Braj and do some work for me. You have to write the Narada Bhakti Sutras, Narada Pancharatra." And Narada Muni said, "I can't stay in Braj, can't stay anywhere because I've been cursed by Daksha." And Krishna said, "The curses of this world don't apply in Vrindavan and Braj." So this is really important. So if you keep yourself in a holy dham like here, serving all the time with good sadhana, nobody can curse you. You don't have to worry about it. Nobody can curse you. You know, don't worry about your astrology. I mean, years ago someone said I was supposed to die when I was 55. Many astrologers said that, and I was counting down the days, saying, "Okay, you all better chant for me, I'm ready to go." And now it's like 20 years later, it still hasn't happened, you know. Sort of disappointed. So, anyway, and Prabhupada said when you clap and dance, the lines on the hands change. You know, so you look at the lines on your hands. Mine have really changed. My lifeline was supposed to end, and now it's much longer. It's pretty good. Anyway, don't all go looking at your hands in the middle of class. That's not the point. So anyway, let's go to the point about Advaitacharya, some more stories and information about him. As I mentioned, some people say that he appeared in Srihat, other people say that he appeared in Shantipur. But whatever. And his father was named Kubera Pandit, who was considered an incarnation of Kuvera. Kuvera, of course, is the treasurer. It's like we're having discussions here about treasury.
Kuvera could come.
Well, I mean, but the problem is, Kuvera had kids who got enamored with the money. That's the problem with money. Janmaishvarya Shrutasya Shibire Namana Dapuman. So, you know, you have to be careful. So he had kids, and there was a little nepotism there. And his kids had Manigriva Nala Kuvera.
But they're straightened out now.
Oh yeah, but they took a few thousand years to get straightened out. a few GBC meetings and straightened years, standing straight or like 1,000 or 100 celestial years or something like that. I'd rather get straightened out quicker than that than having to stand as a tree. So, anyway, he stayed in this world for 125 years. He appeared roughly in the year 1433 and left in 1558. These are rough approximations of his years. Before he was born, his mother heard a voice saying that there's going to be the divine personality, the supreme personality of God is going to appear as your son. And also his father in a dream had a dream, and in this dream he saw this personality called Harihara, combined Lord Shiva, and Vishnu incarnation, Krishna incarnation. And there's actually a deity of him in Sri Mayapur. I'm sure some of you who've done the Mayapur parikrama have actually seen Harihara. Anyone seen Harihara? Yeah, some of you have seen Harihara. So his father actually saw Harihara in a dream. It's a really interesting story. And he was named Kamalaksha because Aksha, Kamala. Aksha means eyes, Kamala means lotus. So he had lotus eyes. And he later on got married. He actually had two wives that were sisters, Sita and Shri. And it's described that Sita, his wife, was considered to be an expansion of Yogamaya, and Shri was also an expansion of Yogamaya. Expansion of Yogamaya. He had 6 sons. This is all described in the Caitanya Charitamrita. That's where these notes are coming from. And 3 were devotees, and 3 were considered not his sons because they were impersonalists. They didn't accept the philosophy. So this is actually important because sometimes we're so attached to someone just because they came out of our body or whatever. But we see that even Krishna killed his own son who became a non-devotee. That was Bhaumasura. Krishna had Bhoma when he was in Varaha by the earth planet, and Krishna ended up killing him. So, I mean, I'm not saying that kill people who are not devotees. That's not my point. But someone who, anyway, I'm not going to get into it and encourage extreme renunciation. But he rejected his son. He considered his sons not to be his sons. And among the 3 that were devotees, Achyutananda was considered the chief of all of them. And there's some stories when Advaita was young, he revived the son of the king at a Kali temple. And he offered obeisances. It says every time he offered obeisances to a deity, if the deity wasn't there, the deity would split into pieces. Whoa. Because sometimes you have a deity and Krishna leaves, or, the demigods, even Kali, can leave the deity. It's not that Krishna comes because you want him to. Krishna comes because the pure devotee is there. And Krishna can leave, too. I was with Prabhupada one time, and devotees were describing one temple they had visited to Prabhupada. And this temple, they had offended the devotees somehow or other by not receiving them properly. And they told Prabhupada they had seen the deity. We saw the deity, we like the deity. And Prabhupada said, there's no deity in that temple. And the devotee said, but Prabhupada, we saw the deity. And Prabhupada said, you heard what I said, there's no deity. And then he gave the expression. He said, it's just like if you use the shalagram shidli to crack nuts with. Oh. In other words, they're using the deity to collect money. So Krishna leaves at that point. Because Krishna only comes, what? Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakti prayachati, if one has devotion. And then there's a story of how we walked on top of. He was asked by his spiritual master to get a lotus flower from the Ganges, and there were snakes and thorns there or something like that. And he walked on top of the Ganges and got the lotus flower. So, that's from the Advaita Prakash. Some of these stories are hyperbole. But anyway, I just had to tell that story. So, after the death of his mother and father, he went to Gaya and on pilgrimage, and there he met Madhavendra Puri. So he's connected with Madhavendra Puri. And after he actually took initiation from Madhavendra Puri, he arrived in Vrindavan, and he was the first person to uncover Madan Gopal, who became later on Madan Mohan. So he was called Madan Gopal, and eventually he gave this deity to the Brahmin family in Mathura, Chobi Brahmin family in Mathura. And there's a whole story about it with Sanatana Goswami, which I'm not going to get into now. And in his travels, he found a book called the Ananta Samhita, and there he found the description of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who would appear, and that's why he was praying for the Lord to appear, because he knew the Lord would come, and it was predicted in the Vedic literatures. And he had some interactions with a Digvijaya, that means a pundit who goes around challenging everyone to debate, and he initiated that pundit after he defeated him in argumentation. He had many pastimes with Haridas Thakur, and especially the pastime that's mentioned in Haridas Thakur's biography, where he would give Haridas Thakur the Shraddha plate. Now, you don't know what a Shraddha plate is, that when a Brahmin is commemorating the disappearance of some of his relatives, there's this ceremony called Shraddha. In Hindi they call it Shrad, for short, because they don't pronounce the A. And the person who's supposed to get the plate, the offering plate, is the best of the Brahmanas. So he gave it to Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur, we know, was born in a Muslim family, certainly not a Brahmin family, but he considered him to be the best of the Brahmanas according to the Vedic literatures, which say that if one actually is Krishna conscious, automatically he's a Brahmin. So, anyway, so he took initiation from Madhavendra Puri in Navadvip. And Madhavendra Puri left this world in Ramuna. Ramuna is where the Shirachur Gopinath deity is. I don't know how much more time do I have?
30 years, I think, something like that.
I can go on? I mean, I don't.
You go.
You're going to have a midday class, too. I got a lot of information here. Then he went to Navadvip and opened a Sanskrit school, and he initiated Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata in the Gopal mantra, and this is when he began to cry out to Krishna to appear, and he worshipped Krishna with the Ganges and Tulsi water. And we all already told the story of Vishwarup going daily to hear Krishna Katha, and I told that about Sachimata. And Advaitacharya, here's an interaction he had with Achyutananda. This is really interesting. Advaitacharya was asked by one day, who is Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master? And so Advaitacharya answered, Keshava Bharati is Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. But Achyutananda, his son, got very angry with his father. He said, this is nonsense. How can God have a spiritual master? And Advaitacharya was very, very pleased with him. But Advaitacharya really was upset because Lord Chaitanya would respect him because he was a senior Vaishnava. So Advaitacharya wanted to have Lord Chaitanya get angry with him. So he began to teach this thing called the Yoga Vasishta, which is sort of an impersonalism, to get Lord Chaitanya angry. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda decided to go see Advaitacharya. And of course, on the way, there were some interesting things that happened with a sannyasi who wasn't actually a sannyasi, but let's just go fast forward. And so, in which Lord Chaitanya was offered liquor, and he didn't know what it was because the Lord Nityananda knew because he was more experienced in this world. This so-called sannyasi offered him something called happiness. That's what they call liquor. And Lord Chaitanya said, what is this happiness? And Lord Nityananda said, it's liquor. And Lord Chaitanya got so upset jumped in the Ganges and swam all the way to Shantipur just to get purified. So, anyway, so what happened is Advaitacharya started teaching this Yoga Vasishtha to get Lord Chaitanya angry, and Lord Chaitanya eventually arrives with Lord Nityananda at Advaitacharya's house in Shantipur and starts beating him up physically. And Sita Devi, the wife of Advaitacharya, gets so upset, so you're going to kill the old man. And Lord Chaitanya said, I don't care. He's teaching this nonsense. Of course, don't imitate this. I have to be really careful with the devotees. Don't start beating people up who teach nonsense. That's for the government, not for us, or for Krishna. So, and then Advaitacharya starts dancing in ecstasy. Finally, I have gotten chastised by Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya feels very embarrassed that he's done this. And then there's the story about Lord Chaitanya when he took sannyas. He was misled by Lord Nityananda because Lord Nityananda said we are going to Vrindavan, but actually he took him to where Advaitacharya was, and he told him that the Ganges was the Jamuna. And Lord Chaitanya jumped in, and Advaitacharya was on a boat, and he brought him to his house. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Madhya Lila. And he fed Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and then there was that famous exchange between Lord Chaitanya and between Lord Nityananda and Advaitacharya, in which Lord Nityananda was saying, I was hoping to break my fast today, but Advaitacharya has not even given me one morsel of food. And then Advaitacharya says, you reject Paramahamsa. They started calling each other names. And then finally Lord Nityananda just throws some rice on the floor, and some of it sticks to the body of Advaitacharya. And Advaitacharya says, now I've become completely crazy because it's been touched by the rice by this reject Paramahamsa. I mean, it's this whole... Yeah. So there, you see this many times. There's this joking, fighting between Lord Nityananda and Advaitacharya. And it also occurs near the Gundicha temple when they're in the Narendra Sarovara. Then there's this splashing fight between the different devotees. And Lord Nityananda is just splashes Advaitacharya so he can't even see anymore. And Advaitacharya is saying all these bad things about Lord Nityananda. But these are pastimes of the Lord. So, and then, I don't know. Let me skip ahead because there's so much here. Let's see. Oh yeah, another thing is in the Narendra Sarovara, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for Advaitacharya to be Ananta Shesh, and Lord Chaitanya sat on him and floated on the lake. Huh. That's near the Gundicha temple. So finally, when it was time for Lord Chaitanya to leave this world, it was Advaitacharya who gave him the final message to leave this world. And this is Advaitacharya's words. Please inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is acting like a madman, that everyone here has become mad like him. Inform him also that in the marketplace, rice is no longer in demand. Further, tell him that those who are mad now in ecstatic love are no longer interested in the material world. Also tell Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one who has also become a madman in ecstatic love, Advaita Prabhu, has spoken these words. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responded. This is from the Anshulila 1923. After hearing this equivocal sonnet by Advaitacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled. That is his order. Then he fell silent. Although he knew the secret, Swarup Damodar inquired from the Lord, what is the meaning of this sonnet? I could not understand it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Advaitacharya is a great worshipper of the Lord and is very expert in the regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic literatures. Advaitacharya invites the Lord to come and be worshipped, and to perform the worship he keeps the deity for some time. He's comparing himself to the deity, and Advaitacharya invited him to come down. After his worship is complete, he sends the deity somewhere else. I do not know the meaning of the sonnet, nor do I know what is in Advaita Prabhu's mind. Advaitacharya is a great mystic. No one can understand him. He's expert in writing sonnets that even I myself cannot understand. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited, let's say, extreme ecstasy in his final pastimes in Jagannath Puri, and eventually entered into the Tota Gopinath deity and left this world. So it's wow. So how Advaita Acharya disappeared is he was expressing pain, how people were not properly respecting Gauranga, and all the Vaishnavas came, there was a kirtan, and he was crying out, "Where is my Gauranga? Where is my Gauranga? Where is my Gauranga?" So there was a temple there of Madan Gopal, and he entered that temple and he disappeared in that temple. And this happened in Shantipur. So today, just to be brief, which I wasn't, we are celebrating Advaita Acharya's appearance day. We should pray for his mercy, because by his mercy we can get Lord Nityananda's mercy and eventually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. By their mercy we can understand and study the books left by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and by their mercy we can understand the conjugal loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. So any questions or comments? Yes?
Sri Gadadhar is, you said Narada Muni, but I've heard of
No, Sri Gadadhar is Radharani.
Radharani.
He's Shakti Tattva.
He's Shakti.
And Srivas is Narada Muni. And Tattva, of course, he means like a category. He's Radharani, but he's exhibiting a little bit different bhav than Radharani is. Radharani is bam, or left-handed gopi. You understand? Left-handed. Mm-hmm. That means she's unsubmissive. Chandravali is the submissive gopi, and she's Radharani's so-called competitor. Of course, Radharani has no competitor, but Chandravali is performing that service of appearing like the competitor with Radharani, so to get Radharani so she could exhibit her man, or anger, with Krishna. And we were speaking about this the other day, because we were reading the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, giving class in the 10th canto, that when Chandravali gets angry with Krishna, she just keeps it down. She doesn't say anything. But when Radharani gets angry with Krishna, she has her associates like Lalita just basically beat up Krishna sometimes. You take a stick, threaten him, if he comes near her, we're going to whack him. And so Krishna, in order to pacify Radharani, sometimes has to dress up as a woman, as we say now in drag. So, there's a famous story, it's called the Gauri Kund story, where he actually dresses up as the deity of Gauri. And then he's caught with Radharani by Radharani's mother-in-law and sister-in-law and so-called husband. But they don't know it's Krishna, or he's Krishna. They think that Radharani is just with the deity. And so Krishna as the deity, this is a story by the Goswamis, I'm not making this up. This is not one of the broad stories. Krishna as the deity begins to say to Abhimanyu, "You're going to be killed because you didn't trust Radharani." And so they're praying to Krishna, but they're actually praying they're praying to the deity, but they're actually praying to Krishna, "Please forgive him, please forgive him." And the deity, who is Krishna, says, "No, he's going to be killed." Finally, Radharani understands what's going on, and she bows down to the deity. She knows it's Krishna, and she's a part of the act. Says, "Please forgive my husband." And then the deity, who is Krishna, says, "Yes, because you're praying, then we will forgive him. I will forgive him, but just this once." It's a nice story.
So this is obviously in Gokula, not Goloka, this kind of pastime. Is that right or not?
It could happen in Goloka too. It could happen in Goloka too, yeah, sure. There's just no demons there. But different devotees can play different parts in Goloka. And Abhimanyu is considered to be an expansion of Krishna anyway. So there's no demons. There's rumors of demons in Goloka Vrindavan, but there's no actual demons, no killing, obviously. But there has to be some man or anger and stuff like that in Goloka. Otherwise, things would get kind of boring. Unless there were, you have these indirect rasas, You have the 5 direct rasas, like Shanta, Dasha, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. And then you have the 7 indirect rasas. So these are expressed also. Not all of them, and ghastliness is not there in the spiritual world. But the other ones, humor, anger, chivalry, these are manifest there. And shock. Their heads off and everything. I mean, that's, wow. I mean, I think I would get pretty nauseous seeing that stuff. But anyway, there's so many nice pastimes like that of Advaita Acharya. We didn't get much time to mention them all, but I'm sure that Pran Govinda will know them. He's actually from Bengal, so he's a Dhamvasi. He's related, somehow or other related to Bhakti Chumar, so. Yeah, something like that. Cousins or second cousins or village cousins. Nowadays when you say to someone you're a cousin or something, it may be a village relationship too. It's a nice thing. Like, we have cousins, hopefully here in New Talavan we'll all consider ourselves cousins and brothers and sisters, That we have much more peace if we thought like that, right? Isn't it?
I have a lot of problems with my cousins.
But that's illusory cousins. Just like I have my brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. Aunts and uncles. Not in ISKCON, but anyway. But outside of ISKCON, let's see, in other Gaudiya Maths, we have our uncles or aunts previously passed away. And brothers and sisters and cousins. So if we see things in a family relationship, then it's more likely we're going to be loving with each other, isn't it? I mean, because that's basically all we have is each other, if you think about it. I mean, who else do we have? Right? I mean, I don't have any family members other than my brother, who's not a devotee yet. He doesn't know. But everybody else in my whole family's gone. Passed away, died. So, so this is my family. ISKCON is my family, right? Who else do I have? When I'm getting ready to pass away, I don't want my brother around. Who want me to sign over my inheritance? So any other questions or comments? Yes.
More and more we are seeing that in any groups of like the family or in a business, in a company, people are getting more and more aware of the human aspect, the human relationships.
Yeah.
We have come a long way in philosophy and psychology to understand that beyond the basic human needs of shelter, food, and clothing, there is this more subtle set of needs.
Yes.
Which is the human touch, the human relationship, the human warmth.
Yes.
And it's very nice to see that even in ISKCON we are trying not to take care of, for example, the health aspect, the caring of the devotees who are becoming old and ill. And I was sharing with my husband the other day, I say, to me it's one of the most amazing examples of leadership. It's something that happened on the 20th century, at the beginning of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
It's this Antarctica expedition. The expedition per se was a failure, a complete failure. The ship was trapped by the icy waters. They couldn't reach their destination, but became a legend, an example of leadership. Why? because the man put aside all the technical aspects. He didn't care about the money, about the fame, about his prestige under the English government.
Right.
He said, no, don't worry about the equipment or everything. What we have to do is care for each other. And he did an amazing, outstanding leadership example. And he saved every single man in his group. And for months and months, they had to struggle so much. At the end of the day, they had a satisfaction that even the trip was a failure. They have each other, and the leaders saved all of them.
That's
So
nice.
I think it's maybe what sometimes we a little bit naively think, oh well, that is outside, that is the others, the karmis. Well, they are as human as we
Yeah.
are, and maybe we can learn a little bit about that.
That's right. I mean,
in us.
yeah, we have to be careful about divisive language, where we call people karmis or demons or rakshasas or
Rascals.
rascals is kind of cute. I mean, if I love someone, I call them a rascal. Yeah, and in India it's not like that, but actually with me it means I like them. So yes, we have to see that we're all in here together and we're all brothers and sisters. I mean, whether people are in ISKCON or outside ISKCON, but especially those who are in ISKCON, we're a team, and we're meant to bring the rest of the world into the team. So that's an important point. Thank you for reminding us about empathy and compassion. So I think we have to end now. Any other questions about class or problems? But there'll be a nice class later on by Pran Govinda. It's a fast day, half the day. And there'll be a midday program, right?
Yeah, Vishnu Naughty class.
And feast too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vegetarian?
Yeah. Not only that, organic, vegan.
Vegan? No, really? No.
Organic, but not
You're
vegan.
not that surrendered.
We have cows.
Yeah, you have cows. Cows are nice. So, on that happy note, I think we'll see everybody later, and things seem to be going well. We have a lot of things happening today, so I will be busy solving all the problems in the universe for the rest of the... No, I don't know if it's horrible. I get all the problems.
I would like to formally say it was a wonderful class. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dribuj. Thank you for serving the Vaishnavas. Dribuj is so nice, he actually serves the Vaishnavas with medicine. He's kept me alive all these years. All right, all glories to His divine grace.